Good afternoon, Jets Nation. Welcome to the Drew Jets Show. And today we're talking about how the New York Jets should address the tight end position. So without further ado, let's get it started. One of my previous videos that said that safety was the worst position on the Jets last season, but boy was I wrong, because tight end was far more worse. I mean, Tyler Kroft, Ryan Griffin, didn't matter who the starter was. Nobody could get the job done. Nobody could really block consistent enough. Nobody was really a target for Zach Wilson enough. And so that needs to change this off season. So here's how the New York Jets could address it. So let's start off with free agency. My favorite tight end free agent is Dalton Schultz from the Dallas Cowboys. After a slow start to his career, he's just been killing it the past 2 seasons. Had 808 yards and 8 touchdowns this year and 615 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. And not only is Dalton Schultz a talented receiver, he's also a really good blocker. Might be the best blocking tight end in this year's free agency class. Health isn't really an issue for Dalton Schultz. I mean, he did miss a couple games in the first year of his career, but I believe that was because of inactiveness, because he really just didn't play a whole lot. But the past 3 seasons, Schultz really has not missed a whole lot of time. So Schultz, he's another option. He can block well and he can also catch. Some people saying a problem with Schultz could be that he's finally starting to ball out, or he balled out in Dallas because they had so many weapons. But I don't think that is a big issue for Schultz, because not like cornerbacks are guarding tight ends. You know, you're having these linebackers. But I mean, I can see where they're coming from, because you know, if you have Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield, your main focus really isn't going to be a tight end like Dalton Schultz. But if he's putting up stats like this, you would think teams would shift their priorities to him. But either way, I don't think that's much of a concern for Dalton Schultz, and I really like him as an option for the Jets. Then we have Mike Gesicki, who is the best receiving tight end in this year's class. He's just such a great pass catcher. He can do basically everything a receiver can. He can run good deep routes. He is also pretty fast, runs pretty good short routes, and he broke records at the combine because he can jump so high. I'm pretty sure he broke broad jump records. But the problem with him is that he is not good at blocking whatsoever, but he's only missed 1 game in his entire career, so that is a good thing. Then we have David Njoku from the Cleveland Browns. Now, if we can't sign Gesicki or Schultz, then Njoku is a nice fallback option for the Jets. Now, he hasn't really done anything too crazy in his career, hasn't really put up crazy receiving stat lines, hasn't really put up crazy touchdown stat lines, and he's an alright blocker, but he has gotten better every year of his career, and a lot of people believe that once he starts to get in a more bigger role with the team, because a lot of people were feeling like he was shadowed in Cleveland, like his role wasn't big enough, but people feel like once he gets a bigger role with another team, he can finally start to break out, because there were a lot of flashes of that the past 2 seasons. So hopefully, if we weren't able to shine Schultz or Gesicki, Njoku turns out to be a pretty solid option. And then the last free agent I like is Gerald Everett from the Seattle Seahawks. He's more of a role-playing tight end. Definitely, I don't see him as a true tight end number 1, a starter. And if you do draft Gerald Everett, drafting a tight end early on makes a whole lot more sense. It is more of a priority. You know, Everett, he's a pretty solid receiver, alright blocker. Definitely, if you sign Everett, then targeting a tight end in the draft has got to be done and is more of a priority. Speaking of the draft, who are some guys we potentially draft? My favorite out of the bunch is Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State. I mean, first off, we're coaching him this week in Mobile, so we're going to be getting a good look at him. He's a pretty solid receiver, had over 1,000 yards this past year, and he's also a fantastic blocker, the best blocking tight end in this year's class. He's not exactly a touchdown scorer, but if you could sign or draft a guy who's pretty good at scoring touchdowns, then this really isn't an issue for you. And then you have Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. The Jets were coaching him at the Senior Bowl, but for some reason he decided to leave. So we did get a brief look at him, but he is a Jets fan. His dad has been preaching for him to go to the New York Jets, and he's also a pretty solid receiver and a pretty good blocker, but injuries are a major concern for Ruckert because he's only played 1 full season in his entire 4-year career, but hopefully he can clean up his injuries at the next level. Then we have Charlie Polar from Iowa State, and I didn't really know too much about Polar until I started researching him, and boy, do I really like Charlie Pollard. I mean, he is a touchdown machine. 23 touchdowns in his career at Iowa State. He's broken a ton of records at Iowa State, and he's a really reliable player. I think he's played in every single game of his career. He's an alright blocker, and speed is an issue for him, but he is a receiving tight end who can also do some pretty good damage in the blocking game. It's just speed is a major concern for him. Then we have Isaiah Likely, who does not have speed as a concern for him. I mean, this dude is like one of the best receiving tight ends in this year's draft. No, he is the best receiving tight end in this year's draft. I mean, 12 touchdowns a season, over 1,000 yards. Are you kidding me? But obviously, if you're going to have a really good receiving tight end, obviously blocking is going to be an issue for him. But then at the same time, if you sign a blocking tight end or if you draft one, then this really isn't an issue for you. And the last tight end we're going to be talking about is Jalen Weidemeyer from A&M, who was one of the guys I was really liking early this year until Trey McBride and like everybody else started to break out. You know, he feels like that option who was really talked about at the beginning of the season. Everybody has him in their big boards, but because new names start to emerge out, he starts to fall back, but is probably going to end up being one of the better in the class. I mean, he's a reliable player. He's played in like every single game of his career. He's pretty good at receiving. Alright as a blocker, although he kind of needs to improve on that, but he's not really the popular name. He has some catching issues. He's a pretty solid tight end. So here are all the players that I want the New York Jets to either sign or draft this offseason. Hopefully we sign one and draft one because it is just that big of an issue for us. And getting Zach Wilson, 2 big body targets, is what we need to do. Well, anyway, that is all I got for you guys in today's video. If you enjoyed, let me know by hitting the subscribe and like button. You can check me out on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Jude_Jets for more content, and comment down below who you want the New York Jets to sign and draft this off season. And I'm your host, Jude, signing off for now. See you guys later. Peace!